Ladies and gentlemen, this is Scott Pollock, Chief Editor of the Critical Post Chicago, reporting. Welcome to another edition of the Goldwater Report. Thanks again for tuning us in, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate it. Remember to go over to the Critical Post Chicago, the head page, and if you want to support us, just click an ad by Google. Google will pay us. Ladies and gentlemen, this is another off-the-script report coming to you because there's breaking news as a result of Don Trump just coming on the airwaves and rebuking Mrs. Clinton's remarks from yesterday, which everybody in the propaganda press seems to be buzzing about because they want to keep the American people totally transfixed on this election. Likely as not, ladies and gentlemen, there's going to be about 130 to 150 million people voting in this election. And, we're not being given real choices, and I don't want this particular report to be construed that this anchor desk is coming out in favor of one thing or the other. Everybody knows that we have been delivered into a despotism. I mean, that's why a few reports back I talked about the speech General George Washington's last remarks before he left office, where he warned people don't get into party politics, but nobody paid attention to the warning because as soon as he left office, they went into party politics. The Democrat Party, the Republican Party, which have been the dominant parties during my entire lifetime, have failed this country miserably. There's only a few epochs in history, in our recent history, during my life, where some semblance of integrity actually occurred, and not very often. We all know that the country's been sold down the river. We all know that the government is four things. It is a liar, it is a cheat, it is a thief, and it murders in the name of corporate interests and banking interests. While the conservatives would love to believe that the American military is defending our freedoms, they would love to believe that. They believe their own Kool-Aid. Everybody knows that since John Kennedy was assassinated and then that assassination was covered up, everybody knows that this country has been delivered into a series of corporate wars. Let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, that Vietnam, that whole debacle. In the late 1940s, Ho Chi Minh came to the United States first. Remember that. That's a fact. Because he wanted to expel the colonial French. So since Vietnam, every war is a corporate war. And every president that has backed actions and every Congress that has backed actions has done it for the corporate state, the corporate superstate, which is in partnership with this government, and that includes the Federal Reserve Bank. And they're the instigator of a lot of this. But I wanted to come on the let's understand that, ladies and gentlemen, and to put this corporate spin on everything, this uber corpy sellout garbage on the American people. If they, it is hypnotism, ladies and gentlemen. This press wants to hypnotize and continues to try and hypnotize the American population. That's its job. HR 5736. It's on the head page of our of the Critical Post. Read it in the first paragraph. It states in corporate language how propaganda is going to be used on the people of this country. And then we have all the people in the alternative press running off, like in our last report about Alex Jones and Matt Drudge and others, running off headlong into unfounded reports, instilling fear. So they're actually fulfilling part of the agenda. They don't even know it. They are part of the agenda of the church of the media. Unwitting dupes fulfilling CIA agenda. Clandestine operations and espionage agenda being foisted on the American people. That is happening. That is a fact. But I want to get to this. Here's the AP. Let me bring that up. Here's the Associated Press slurring and smearing, because everybody knows that the Associated Press, one of the uber journalism organizations, bought and paid for by the Democratic Party Corporation, bought and paid for, spreading the language and rhetoric of socialism, spreading the language and rhetoric of fascism, and confusing the American public. This organization, along with UPI, Reuters, Gannett, they're screwing around with people's heads. Listen to the way this comes out. Says the headline is Clinton gets rich making you poor, Trump charges. Now, I'm not a defender of Donald Trump. I'm just showing you how sly this bias is. Everybody's been reporting it for the longest time. States here, yet his remarks included erroneous statements and distortions about Clinton's record, and he frequently referenced sources of information that have been widely questioned inside the book Clinton Catch by Peter Schweizer. Widely questioned by whom? See how that works? And people who don't have any discernment sit here and look at this up and go, oh, yeah, it was widely questioned. They are unleashing, and they want to keep firmly in place in this country a bunch of radical egalitarians that don't know the difference between equality and freedom. They do not exist side by side. They are mutually exclusive of each other. Equality does not mean freedom, but they want that confused. And that's why the women in this country who are of the radical egalitarian mindset, they call themselves the independent voters. They sit there in the middle and they slosh back and forth between these two government party franchises, Republicans and Democrats. That's how they game the election. It's the women that have been outvoting the men. And that 3% sloshes back and forth, and they do it on a visceral motive. They do it on emotion. And they want to keep that in play. And this is exactly the kind of article that they use to keep that in play. Oh, the Associated Press says that his remarks were distorted. Widely criticized, they say. Then they go down here. And they say the Republican candidate also argued that Clinton's opposition to a massive Asia-Pacific trade pact was an example of her political opportunism, noting that she had worked on the agreement while at the State Department and has previously backed free trade accords. And he took aim at her immigration policies, saying her call for providing those in the U.S. illegally with a path to a citizenship amounted to mass amnesties. These are all slur statements. This is the language in the church of the media of radical egalitarianism. And before I get off the air, I want to see if I can bring some more to light in this garbage article by AP. This is absolute garbage. Trump's remarks came one day after Clinton launched her own blistering attacks on her White House rival. She moved to undercut Trump's argument that his business record would help him create jobs as president, arguing instead that he had been reckless with his companies and shouldn't have his hands on our economy. And while that is a true statement, it's all this very sly smear. Everything in this article is a sly smear. This organization is obviously in the tank for this woman. Everybody knows 22 years of the Clintons is well documented. These people are white-collar, quasi-criminals. Everybody knows it. Nobody in the Justice Department is going to do anything about it. Nobody is going to spend the amount of money to take these two people to task. And there's going to be, this is the narrative of the major, one of the major news outlets. So now everybody else in the political press is going to spin this whole thing. They're going to spin it. And you're going to call this news? People in America are going to look at this like this is news. The only fact that happened here, ladies and gentlemen, is two candidates have come out with slash and burn tactics and opposition research statements against each other, and one is less than correct than the other. That's for you to decide. Which one's more correct? That's what we're being given in this election. But this smear piece is exactly how things are done. This is garbage. I'll be back with we're getting a piece ready for tariffs, so you understand what tariffs are, because there's a lot to understand in this language. Tariffs. Because it's a big issue by the Republican Party candidate. You have to understand what this man can get done and what he can't get done on tariffs, and what is good and what's bad. And we've been working on that piece. And the piece on Dewana, the victimization of Dewana Breedlove, is still in the queue. Again, this is Scott Pollock, Chief Editor of the Critical Post Chicago, reporting. Thanks for watching another edition of the Goldwater. report. We're going to have other things as well. We're getting emails from people about a possible semantical operation going on with this Orlando shooting thing and the subsequent arrest of a guy in Santa Monica after that shooting. I'm insisting that this is corroborated by 3 separate sources that have black and white. I cannot get confirm or deny any semantical operation there. It is suspected by people, and there's sites all over the internet right now that are calling this a quote-unquote false flag operation. I cannot confirm or deny that. Anyways, thanks again for watching. Right now, that is all.